Hello, and welcome to MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries, the Mektek expansion. This is HDFI, and I'll be your pilot today. I thought today would be a good opportunity for us to take a look at MechWarrior Mercenaries, maybe introduce some new players to some of the ins and outs of the Mechlab, show you guys what the Mektek expansion is all about. They've added a ton of new stuff, and I'm thinking that with all the hype around MechWarrior right now, between the BattleTech game that just came out to pretty solid reviews, MechWarrior Online still going strong, and of course the announcement of MechWarrior 5 Mercenaries, might be a good opportunity for people to go back and play some old experiences that they might have missed out on, like MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries. If you're going to go back in time here with me and take a look and try and play this game yourself, you're absolutely going to want to look up the Mektek expansion. Of course, links will be in the description. Adds a lot of mechs, adds a lot of compatibility fixes, like widescreen resolution, for example. I think there's an HD texture pack included, so the game will look a little cleaner for you. And pretty much everything that you need to get going. It also adds more mechs than I can count. Tons of weapons, tons of tech, just all kinds of cool gear. It's absolutely the way to play. The first thing you guys are going to want to do is go into your options, make sure that your controls are set up correctly. You're either going to want to turn on the mouse or make sure you're using your joystick. Either way is going to be good for you, and then go through, just scroll through here. There are a lot of controls. It's a BattleTech game. There are just so many different things to go through and set up. A couple things to highlight: obviously your movement, your throttle, your different weapon groups. One thing, since this is a single player experience, you'll be dealing with a lot of AI teammates throughout the game. It's very important to keep in mind these F1 through F10 commands. This is how you order your teammates around. Tell them to follow you, tell them to attack stuff. When you press the button, it'll pop up on screen, so it's not too hard to figure out what exactly you're going to be inputting, but it's good to learn them a little bit beforehand, familiarize yourself here, so that it's a little bit smoother for you when you actually get into the game, get into the gameplay. With all that said, once you've got your controls set, let's hop into instant action. And here you can sort through 3 different mission types. I'm a big fan of the wave play. Set up some enemies, set up your number of lives, set up the number of times you want to face these enemies, set up your own allies over here. With normal, veteran, or expert pilots, you can see these little bars on the left is their talent. A normal pilot, not very good. He's got barely any gunnery, barely any piloting, barely any sensors, and barely any blind fighting. Gunnery obviously is how effectively he's able to shoot. Piloting is his ability to just move around, pilot his mech, get in and out of trouble. Sensors, I believe, basically extend the sensor range. It might help something like their lock-on time. If they have high sensors, maybe missile mech, something like that would make sense. And then blind fighting, I'm not entirely sure what blind fighting really does for you in this game. I know most of your AI pilots aren't going to have very much of it, so whatever it is, I hope you don't have to do it. Here, this is you. These are the stats of your mech. You've got firepower, armor. As you can see, I have very little of either of those things. Speed. Worth noting that speed is actually relative, so this isn't my overall speed like between 0 and 100 or something like that. This is just how fast this particular mech that I have selected is compared to other mechs of this type. So a fast assault mech is going to be a lot different than a fast medium mech, right? And finally, you've got your heat dissipation ability here. Green is good. Green means that you're going to be able to burn off a lot of heat that your weapons are generating. I'm not sure exactly where the sweet spot is. If you want to max out this bar so it's totally full, you're still going to be generating some heat. It's not like you'll be totally heat neutral, but typically, like in MechWarrior Online, the best builds don't usually have 100% heat efficiency or anything even remotely close to it. You're going to be riding the line a little bit farther down, maybe closer to 80. In a game like this, where it's not quite as high skill for the most part, you're going to be fighting the enemy in the form of a computer. Maybe you don't really have to worry too much about optimizing your builds and making everything just perfect, but it's something to keep in mind and play around with. Alright, I think next we should probably show off the Mechlab a little bit. It's different than anything you've ever experienced before in any other MechWarrior or BattleTech game, so it's definitely worth taking a look at. The first list of mechs here on the left, you can see everything that Mektek has added to the game. It's really just an incredible super long list. You've got infantry, you've got this huge list of mechs, you've got battle armor up at the top. If you're inclined to give that a try, they've even added some of their own mechs to the game, things that you aren't going to find in like on Sarna or on other BattleTech type games. One of the ones that I'm rather partial to is the Wildcat. I'll run through the components on the left here. You see the Wildcat has 4 different components as an option. I'll pick a variant that I made before. Actually, I don't seem to have a variant that I made before. Well, anyway, so the first component that you can add is the electronic countermeasure, aka ECM. It decreases enemy sensor range and increases the time it takes to lock onto your mech with missiles. This is a good anti-LRM boat type countermeasure. Next you have the BAP, the Beagle Active Probe. This is pretty much exactly the opposite. It increases your radar range, and it also decreases your missile lock-on time. If you find that LRMs or ATMs or any of the other lock-on type missile systems are to your liking, you probably want to take a BAP just to make it a little bit more efficient for you. Jump jets, pretty self-explanatory. They enable you to jump. They weigh a lot. Next is LAMS, Laser Anti-Missile System. This is a system that when you equip it on your mech, it'll automatically shoot down the first couple of missiles that come in to hit you. Really, kind of like ECM, it's a very good countermeasure when you're consistently getting pummeled by LRMs. If you see in a specific mission or a specific enemy, or you just don't like getting hit with missiles, take a LAMS. Next, you have enhanced optics. The way this works in this game, instead of making it so you zoom in farther, it just makes the zoom window bigger. It's sort of like a picture-in-picture when you press zoom, and this will make that picture bigger. It does make it a little bit easier to find your target if you're kind of struggling, if you've got a very long-range weapon. Next, we have the IFF jammer. Mostly I play this game single player these days, and I don't really see too much of a purpose for the IFF jammer. But what this does is it makes it so that on everybody's radar around you, you actually appear as a neutral unit. So it's sort of like a hidden in plain sight type system. It can be confusing to people. It might enable you to get the drop on someone, get an early shot in, but playing single player, I don't really see too much use for it. And finally, you have the Advanced Gyro. The Advanced Gyro is kind of a nice little thing that will help out a human pilot to some extent. It makes it so that your cockpit shakes a little bit less when you get hit. As you're going throughout the game, you will definitely notice when you get hit with a big autocannon or something like that, because your screen, it just takes over. Your screen goes flying, you're staring at the ground, you have no idea what's going on. And this will make it so it's a little bit easier to aim when you're getting hit, and so you recoil a little bit less when you are hit. Next, down here, you've got your heat sinks. As compared to many other MechWarrior games that you may or may not have played, you don't really add them specifically onto your mech anywhere. You just press the plus or minus, and you can see the things shifting up here. Each one weighs a ton. The more heat sinks you have, the better your heat efficiency is. Pretty obvious. Next is engine upgrade. Again, you aren't really changing a specific engine type. You just boop, hit the plus, hit the minus to change your tonnage that your engine is using and gain a little bit of speed. Let's go over here to weapons. One nice little thing about the Wildcat, this gigantic center torso ballistic spot, you can fit just about anything in there, except I think the clan railgun, which is, I mean, just look at this thing. It's a beast. I think there's only one mech in the entire game that can use the clan railgun. There might be 2, but I for sure know that there's one. It's 28 tons, so that alone is going to make it very prohibitive. Throw a weapon on here and just demonstrate briefly for you guys. Obviously, as you're adding and taking weapons away, your heat is changing. Laser, X-pulse lasers are just god-awful for heat. You can see that change pretty quickly. If you want to add or take away ammo, again, like the heat sinks, like the engines, you just plus or minus each ton, or each extra tonnage that you take uses an actual ton, and it doubles, well, not doubles, but adds an extra bit of ammo there from 30 to 60 to 90. One thing that you will want to do once you're done is go into the weapon groups and set up your firing groups here. I'm sure you're familiar with that. We'll throw just a couple of lasers on to demonstrate. So typically I like to group either by the side of the mech that the weapon's on or by the range. You know, 2 medium lasers, you can fire those all the time. They don't have ammo, but the rack you probably want on its own, just so that you can conserve ammo and really only fire it when you're able to pick the right shot. You can sort your different weapons here. And again, just to show off some of the Mektek stuff a little bit, just a quick scroll. I will leave it up to you guys to go through and explore this on your own and find some things that you really like. If you're playing the game in like instant play, or if you just load into the Mechlab from the main menu, you'll have access to everything as you're going throughout the campaign. In traditional BattleTech campaign style, you're started out with a couple of light mechs and some crap, and slowly gain access to more and better stuff as you play through. I think that's just about it in the Mechlab, other than the armor tab. You're going to want to check this out before you lock in your mech selection. Make sure that you have a lot. You probably want to fill these bars up. MechWarrior 4 is unique, I think, in that it has different types of ammo or armor. You've got ferrofibers as a standard, but you can also select reactive or reflective armor. These weigh more, but they're supposed to give you bonuses against specific types of weapons. Reflective is supposed to be good against beam weapons. You see how I take it, and suddenly all my bars are at half. But interestingly, I've got 2 tons in the left leg. Let's go back to Ferro. Yeah, and Ferro 2 tons. So you can actually, it's weird, you can actually take a lot more. Like that was, what was that, like 8 tons to max that out? Whereas then I go back to Ferro, and suddenly I've got 22 tons free, but yet it's still maxed out. So this might be a way at the end of the game for you to, when you're up against assault mechs just 24/7, it might be a way to add a little bit of survivability to your mech if you go in and add some reflective or reactive type armor. The thing is, it's a real sacrifice. You saw 8 tons difference just to take that, and that's 8 tons that you're not going to have in ammo or in lasers or in engine speed or what have you. So there's always a trade-off, but that's pretty much the Mechlab. I will leave it to you guys again to go through here and find some mechs that you enjoy, some loadouts that you enjoy. You can always create a new variant or rename your existing variants in case you've come up with a build that you like, but you don't want to overwrite it and try something different. It's a handy little tip to remember. Those tabs are up here. And I think that's pretty much everything. So, let's dip out of the Mechlab and dive into some instant action. Veteran back, give him his Tenchi back. And the Tenchi, I think, is a 60-ton mech. Probably a laser boat. Doesn't really matter. Stock variant, variant 1. I don't know what variant 1 is. Something I made at some point, probably. Slower, lots of armor. Why don't we go with that? He'll probably need armor. For enemies, I don't want to go too big. I'm going to heavy myself. At least I think the Wildcat's a heavy. Sometimes I forget. Black Knight's pretty big. Canis, that's one of the strange, weird-looking ones. I think that's an assault. So this might be a little bit tough, but we'll roll with it. Not afraid of a little challenge here. The Gisu I talked about, I wouldn't mind seeing one of these in action, even though it's so skinny, it's going to be hard to shoot. Let's see. Grim Reaper. Grim Reaper, I'm not sure if that's a real mech or if that's a Mektek mech, but I think it's around 50 tons, 55. And then maybe a little light mech or something, just for something different. The Koto. Koto is a weird little one. It's got a strange design, but we'll throw that on there and see. So player lives, if you want respawning, feel free and add this. I'm just going to go with 1. We'll just do a 1 and done. Number of waves. You can go as long as you want to, but we're just going to do 1 single wave with 1 little buddy on the manor house. Difficulty regular. Load it up and see how it goes. Alright, so here's my little buddy. This Tenchi is running around keeping guard. I'm going to press V. I'm not sure if that's the default or not, but this gives me a couple external views. I can look left, look right. I have those set up. Look back, so you can really get a good view of my mech if you want to show off a little bit. I'm going to go back into first person. The first time I played through this game, I was insistent on doing it in third person, but I've since learned that it's a bit sacrilege to play that way. So I'm going to go back to first and get a little comfortable. Alright, radar blip, we've got the first mech. It's a Canis. Now, I've forgotten entirely what my radar range is. I'm just going to fire a large laser at him and see if it hits. Nope, no chance. Ugh. So this is the zoom window. If I'd taken that advanced optic, it'd just be bigger on the screen. One neat little feature of the oh bugger, of the Wildcat, when I jump, makes a nice little Wildcat sound. I'm going to press F4
Take
to
out
order
the
my
designated
lance.
target.
Help me out a little bit here, because I'm in warrior. I think it's a nice detail. I can see it getting a little bit annoying if you use it too much. Ugh. Wasted maneuvers. Too many. Ugh. Trick shots here. Shouldn't have tried that.
Warning. Heat exceeding recommended level. Warning. Damage critical. Warning. Heat exceeding recommended level.
Ugh.
Target down!
Reverse disabled.
Instant
Weapon
death.
destroyed.
So that was a
Target
much bigger
destroyed.
mech, the cannons. I think it's about 80 tons. Not that much bigger, but one thing to note about MechWarrior Online, when mechs go down, they tend to explode, and when they explode, they do a lot of damage to everything around them. So if you can, when you're about to land a kill shot, try backing away from an enemy rather than charging straight at it. That's a little bit embarrassing, but so it ends. But that's the first run of MechWarrior 4. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit. Got to laugh at my incompetence. I think next I'm going to be starting a single-player campaign playthrough, and I hope to get away from the stock vanilla mechs and weapons that everyone's familiar with in MechWarrior 4, and go heavy into some of the MechWarrior Mektek stuff, and see what some of the weird mechs, weird weapons are in there, and see how different it's going to make this playthrough. See how much more expensive it's going to make it. Again, guys, thanks for watching. That was MechWarrior 4 Mercenaries. I hope it was helpful. There will be links in the description, and if you guys have any questions or any comments, any suggestions on how not to die to a Canis in a one-on-one fight, feel free to leave them in the comment section. Thanks, guys. Have a good one. Goodbye.